These are 30 secrets you probably didn't know about Luffy. Did you know that Luffy is a model? That's right, he once appeared in an IRL fashion magazine. Nonno is a men's fashion magazine, and in 2008, Luffy became the first manga character to model for the cover of the magazine. The connection isn't as odd as it might seem, as Nonno is published by Shueisha, the same company that publishes Weekly Shonen Jump. This is only the first of the facts that are to come, and for the last one, I will reveal something 90% of you probably didn't know about. Let's keep going. Luffy loves food, and I mean really loves food. He really isn't picky about what he decides to eat as long as he gets to eat as much as he wants. So it was surprising when Oda said that there's something that he doesn't like. His least favorite food is cherry pie served in Mucktown. What's interesting is that Blackbeard's favorite food, on the other hand, is cherry pie. Maybe it's Oda's way of showing the contrast between the two pirates. You probably noticed this scar under one of Luffy's eyes, but did you know who caused that scar? He himself did. He wanted to prove how brave he was to Shanks in order for him to accept Luffy into his crew. As we know, it ended with him only getting a scar under his eye. Now let's move on from One Piece and on to Dragon Ball. Believe it or not, but Oda has gotten tons of inspiration from Dragon Ball. He himself stated this during an interview with the creator of Dragon Ball. This is very noticeable in Luffy's design. For instance, both Luffy and Goku have messy black hair and love to eat food. The two mangas, One Piece and Dragon Ball, have even had a crossover episode called Cross Epoch. But did you notice this hidden Easter egg? In the crossover episode, Luffy was seen flying the golden nimbus of Goku, something that only someone with a pure heart can do. We already knew Luffy was pure-hearted, but damn, this fact blew me away. The 2020 Olympics in Tokyo, Japan might be the coolest event ever in my opinion. Why, I hear you ask? Well, because Luffy was one of 9 ambassadors at the event. Some other characters that were chosen as ambassadors are Naruto Uzumaki, Goku, and Sailor Moon. Have you ever wondered what Luffy would look like in real life? Well, if you haven't yet learned about it, Netflix is making a live-action adaptation of One Piece, and this is the actor for Luffy. But what about how he'll look in the future? Fear not, because Oda has drawn what he'll look like in the future as well as how the rest of the Straw Hats will look. This is Luffy at age 40 and age 60. What's crazy is that he's strikingly similar to Shanks in the first image, and in the second one he turns into his grandpa Garp. This is how some of the other members of the Straw Hats will look. Moving on. Did you know that Luffy is the only pirate known to have ever escaped all 3 of the world government facilities? The 3 are Enies Lobby, Impel Down, and Marineford. You probably realize that Luffy gives everything he needs a nickname. However, have you noticed how he calls his crewmates by their actual names? Well, there's actually a reason for this. Oda has explained that this is because Luffy doesn't really care about remembering people's names, so he gives them nicknames. But when someone becomes his crewmate, he finally remembers their name. My personal favorite nickname is Cabbage. Listen, he might be pretty dumb, but he wasn't always the charmingly unintelligent character that he is today. In the first version of Romance Dawn that Oda came up with, he was way smarter than he currently is, and the second version was even dumber. The current version of Luffy falls somewhere in the middle. Which version of him do you prefer? On the note of the original version of One Piece, did you know that the Jolly Roger that the Straw Hats currently use isn't the first one? In the first 2 versions of the manga, the Jolly Roger actually looked like this. Pretty crazy, right? In an alternate universe, Luffy would be a firefighter from Brazil. Oda said that being a firefighter would be the perfect job for him because he's so brave. He also stated that Luffy would be Brazilian in real life. Luffy wears tank tops quite often in the show, but I bet you haven't realized that each one that he wears actually has a joke or a gag on them. Oda didn't explain the meaning behind the gags, but he did provide a translation for a couple of them. This one says egg disaster, this one shish kebab, and this one champion. Pretty funny if you ask me. The voice of all things is the ability to understand messages conveyed by inanimate objects and animals that do not speak the human language. The rarity of this ability is absolutely insane, with only 4 people being confirmed with having it. Those 4 are Luffy, Roger, Momonosuke, and Kozuki Oden. Apart from having the voice of all things ability, Luffy also recently became a Yonko with a bounty of 3 billion berries. Now this alone is very special, but did you know that he's the youngest Yonko to date and is also the youngest among his peers in the worst generation? In the SBS where Oda usually responds to fan letters and questions, he once stated that Luffy resembles the sunflower, which is associated with bringing jubilation. This is perfect for Luffy as he has the devil fruit, Hirohito no Mi, model Nika. Nika being someone who is worshipped by slaves as the sun god, and they believed that he would liberate them from their miseries. Another thing that Oda has said is that Luffy would be his ideal child. He stated that he wished all children could be like him and never grow up, even though he has said some pretty cool lines here and there. How cute of him. Now you may be wondering how Luffy can be so lean when he eats so much. Well, I have the same question. Luckily, Oda is here to answer it for us. He answers that he moves around so much that it's hard to gain weight. One thing Dragon Ball and One Piece have in common is that Luffy shares the same Japanese voice actor with a character in the Dragon Ball series. This character is Krillin, and they share the same voice actor, Mayumi Tanaka. You probably remember the tragic scene when Ace passed away in the arms of Luffy in Marineford. Well, if you thought you were the only one having nightmares about it, then you're wrong. Oda has stated that Luffy has had constant PTSD-type nightmares ever since Ace's death. However, he's never told anyone in his crew about it. Fun fact, Luffy's birthday, the 5th of May, is on the same day as the National Children's Day in Japan. This reflects his personality, as one of his most well-known traits is his childishness. However, he isn't the only person with a birthday on May 5th, because DeMario Black, also known as Fake Luffy, was also born on May 5th. What a crazy coincidence! I recently played an anime video game called Jump Force, and noticed that our favorite protagonist Luffy is in the game along with tons of other anime characters and even some other Straw Hats like Zoro, Sanji, and Boa Hancock. How cool is that? Other than having appeared in video games, he's also appeared in a lot of other animes. For example, here in the show Gintama, where the character Gintoki is cosplaying as Luffy, and here in the anime Bimbogami Gal, where Monji is also cosplaying as him. There are 3 people in the One Piece world that Luffy fears. These 3 people are Garp, his grandfather, Ace, his brother, and the scariest of them all, Nami the Navigator on his own ship. I mentioned earlier that Luffy was featured in a magazine, but that isn't the only place where he's been featured. For instance, he was also featured in the New York Times at one point. Although it's never been stated in the show, it's pretty obvious that Luffy's favorite color is red. Oda has even confirmed it. I mean, he wears it in every situation he gets. The coat he wore on Punk Hazard, the red sweater he wears a lot, and even the traditional clothing he wore on Wano were colored in red. What if I told you that Luffy is actually a great swimmer? Now you're probably thinking, how could this be true, because Luffy is a devil fruit user and can't swim, right? This is true. But before he ate the devil fruit, Shanks and Luffy had a conversation where it was confirmed that Luffy was indeed a great swimmer before having eaten his devil fruit. Now you probably know by now that Luffy hasn't killed a single one of his opponents as of yet. But do you know why this is? Oda has stated that Luffy spares his enemies because he believes that killing them would be too easy of a punishment. So he makes them watch as he destroys their dreams in order to achieve his own dream. These were some pretty cool facts, but if you want to see something even crazier, then check out these facts and Easter eggs you probably didn't know about in the One Piece anime.